From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
Jack has my complete trust. I know I'm not alone in that. In the words of one former senator, having Lou on your team is the equivalent as a coach of having the luxury of putting somebody at almost any position and knowing he will do well. And I could not agree more. So I hope the Senate will confirm him as quickly as possible.
As President Obama taps Jack Lew to replace Timothy Geithner as Treasury Secretary, critics point to Lew's time as top executive at Citigroup, which bet on the housing market to collapse, and his backing of the deregulation of Wall Street.
Do you believe that the deregulation of Wall Street, pushed by people like Alan Greenspan, Robert Rubin, contributed significantly to the disaster we saw on Wall Street several years ago?
I don't personally know the extent to which deregulation drove it, but I don't believe that deregulation was the proximate cause.
We'll speak with former financial regulator William Black, author of The Best Way to Rob a Bank is to Own One, and Rolling Stone's Matt Taibbi, his new piece, Secrets and Lies of the Bailout.
The bailout is just a giant dictatorially administered program by the Federal Reserve and partially by the Treasury, and it's all done by ex-Wall Street people and current Wall Street people. And, the ordinary people really don't have any input into any of this.
Then Haiti. 3 years after the earthquake that killed over 300,000 people, we speak to Jonathan Katz, author of The Big Truck That Went By, How the World Came to Save Haiti and Left Behind a Disaster. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. At least 120 people were killed in Pakistan Thursday in a series of bombing attacks, mostly targeting Shiite Muslims and government soldiers. 86 deaths came in a twin bombing in the southern city of Quetta, with scores dying in an initial blast, followed by more deaths when a car bomb struck police and rescuers who arrived at the scene. The banned Sunni group Lashkar-e-Jhangvi claimed responsibility for the attack, prompting fears of worsening sectarian violence in Pakistan after more than 400 deaths in 2012. Thursday's bombings came hours after at least 6 people were killed in the 7th publicly known U.S. drone strike inside Pakistan in less than 2 weeks. The Obama administration has begun 2013 with a flurry of drone attacks inside Pakistan, raising speculation it's accelerating the bombings before its capacity to carry them out is diminished with the planned withdrawal from Afghanistan by the end of next year. According to a tally by the website Long War Journal, U.S. drones have already killed as many as 11 civilians and 30 suspected militants in the first 10 days of the year. If confirmed, that would mean a death ratio of more than 1 civilian for every 3 suspected militants. It also would already exceed the official civilian death toll for 2012, though that number is likely too small because U.S. policy deems all adult males as militants unless contrary evidence emerges after their deaths. According to the Washington Post, the future stationing of CIA bases that launched the drone strikes will be among the topics discussed by the White House and Afghan President Hamid Karzai during Karzai's current visit to Washington. The Obama administration's reportedly set its expectations low for passage of a new assault weapons ban in Congress, despite a changing national consciousness in the aftermath of last month's Newtown shooting massacre. The New York Times is reporting the White House has decided it'll be exceedingly difficult for the ban to make it to President Obama's desk, leading administration aides to develop other gun control rules that would draw bipartisan support. The alternatives include universal background checks, more government research on gun violence. The White House is also reportedly considering a $50 million effort to fund the placement of hundreds of police officers and new surveillance equipment in public schools, a move that would resemble the National Rifle Association's call for armed guards in every school. News of the proposals comes as Vice President Joe Biden hosted gun industry representatives at the White House Thursday as part of his ongoing task force on U.S. gun violence. In his remarks, Biden vowed to issue his recommendations to President Obama next week.
With my colleagues, I'm putting together a series of recommendations for the president that he will take a look at. There's a real, very tight window to do this. I committed to him I'd have these recommendations to him by Tuesday. There is a surprising, so far, a surprising recurrence of suggestions that we have universal background checks. Not just close the gun show loophole, but total universal background checks, including private sales.
The meeting included officials with the NRA who quickly attacked Biden's task force in a statement shortly after. The NRA said, quote, "We were disappointed with how little this meeting had to do with keeping our children safe and how much it had to do with an agenda to attack the Second Amendment." A number of states have vowed to tackle gun violence on their own following the Newtown massacre. In Colorado, Democratic Governor John Hickenlooper proposed Thursday to require universal background checks on all state gun sales. Hickenlooper's plan comes a day after New York Governor Andrew Cuomo called for tightening the state assault weapons ban and limiting high-capacity magazines. All this comes as yet another school shooting occurred Thursday, this time in rural California. A 16-year-old student armed with a shotgun walked into his high school and fired at a fellow student, leaving the victim seriously wounded. The shooter fired at another student but missed his target. Kern County Police Sheriff Donnie Youngblood said he was carrying multiple rounds of shotgun ammunition.
There was an active shooter that didn't show up for school this morning. For the first period, he then interrupted the class halfway through it, armed with a shotgun. He fired the first round, striking another student. That student is at the hospital, a 16-year-old who is in critical condition, but stable at this point. He then tried to engage a second student that he named and tried to shoot him and missed. The teacher at that point was trying to get the students out of the classroom and engaged the shooter, who had numerous rounds of shotgun shells, a 12-gauge shotgun, numerous rounds in his pockets, and he engaged the student, or the suspect, in conversation. According to fellow students, the shooter had previously been bullied by other students that had been expelled after it was discovered he kept a hit list of people he wanted to target. Meanwhile, in Colorado, a judge has ordered shooting suspect James Holmes to stand trial for killing 12 people and wounding dozens more at an Aurora movie theater in July. Holmes is set to appear in court today, but is unlikely to issue a plea. His attorneys say he's suffering from an unspecified mental illness. Evidence emerged at a pretrial hearing this week that Holmes took pictures of himself posing with his firearms before the attack took place. Outside the courtroom, relatives of 2 Aurora shooting victims spoke out about seeing Holmes in person.
It was very emotional for a lot of us, and I think he, this whole time he's been detached. He looked very disheveled in court today, and he basically looked very disinterested.
Trash. I mean, honestly, you sit there, you look at a person, and when you see there's no more humanity left anymore, you don't look him as a person. You really don't. Took a glimpse at him there. I don't feel hate or anger toward him. I just don't feel anything toward him.
The federal government has unveiled new restrictions on the high-risk home loans that push millions into foreclosure and help spark the financial crisis. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau announced new rules Thursday forbidding lenders from issuing mortgages to those ill-positioned to repay the loan and preventing inducements for borrowers to take on crushing debt. In a statement, the Bureau's director, Richard Cordray, said, quote, "To put it simply, lenders should not set up consumers to fail." President Obama has nominated another former Wall Street executive to become Treasury Secretary, picking his own chief of staff, Jack Lew, to replace Timothy Geithner. Obama unveiled Lew's nomination at the White House Thursday.
When the history books are written, Tim Geithner is going to go down as one of our finest secretaries of the Treasury. Jack has my complete trust. I know I'm not alone in that. In the words of one former senator, having Lew on your team is the equivalent as a coach of having the luxury of putting somebody at almost any position and knowing he will do well. And I could not agree more. So I hope the Senate will confirm him as quickly as possible.
Lew was an executive at Citigroup from 2006 to 2008, at the time the financial crisis, and has been a long-time proponent of deregulating Wall Street. We'll have more on his nomination after headlines. A pastor selected to deliver the benediction at President Obama's inauguration later this month has withdrawn following an uproar over anti-LGBTQ comments he made in the 1990s. Reverend Louis Giglio had come under opposition after it was revealed he called on Christians to fight what he called the LGBTQ movement's, quote, aggressive agenda. In a statement, Obama's Presidential Inauguration Committee said it was unaware of Giglio's prior stance at the time he was selected. A new study's found up to half of all food worldwide is going to waste. Britain's Institution of Mechanical Engineers says at least 1.2 billion of the 4 billion tons of food produced each year is thrown out due to problems with harvesting, transporting and storage, as well as wasteful behavior from sellers and consumers. The report calls food wastage, quote, a tragedy that cannot continue if we're to succeed in the challenge of sustainably meeting our future food demands. The findings come as nations across the globe continue to grapple with soaring food prices. Brendan Cox of the group Save the Children said soaring food costs threaten to cause more needless deaths.
What we're saying today is that there is a new normal of high food prices. Just in the last year, we've seen wheat and maize increase by 25%, and that's having a real impact on children's lives. You already know that around 3 million children are dying every year as a result of malnutrition, and we think the food price crisis this year, but what could also happen next year, could make that situation much worse.
Fears of a spike in food prices have grown after a long-standing drought prompted the Obama administration to declare a natural disaster in large parts of the Midwest. Conditions in the 4 main wheat-producing states, Kansas, Colorado, Oklahoma, and Texas, continue to be the worst on record. The drought has carried over from what the hottest year on record in the United States. Thousands of people rallied in Venezuela Thursday to mark what would have been the swearing-in of ailing President Hugo Chavez. The inauguration has been delayed while Chavez remains in Cuba following his 4th cancer surgery. Venezuelan Vice President Nicolás Maduro addressed Chavez supporters.
Han pasado 30 días. Desde la operación del comandante Hugo Chávez.
30 days have passed since the operation on Commander Hugo Chavez. And at this very moment, as you know, he is fighting a battle, and we tell him from here, Commander, easy, keep up your battle, because here you have a Bolivarian government and a revolutionary people.
While the Venezuelan Supreme Court has ruled Chavez is still president despite missing a swearing-in, the opposition is calling for a caretaker government and new elections. 2 Democratic Congress members are claiming Walmart CEO Mike Duke was told of bribery allegations surrounding the retail giant's expansion in Mexico as early as 2005. Emails disclosed by Henry Waxman of California and Elijah Cummings of Maryland show Walmart International's general counsel emailed Duke and other executives about specific bribes for the opening of a number of stores in November 2005, contradicting Walmart claims its top officials were unaware. In a letter to Duke, the Congress members wrote, quote, it would be a serious matter if the CEO of one of our nation's largest companies failed to address allegations of a bribery scheme, unquote. The Justice Department is currently investigating whether Walmart violated the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which makes it a crime for American corporations to bribe foreign officials. You can go to our website at democracynow.org to see our interview with Pulitzer Prize-winning David Barstow, who exposed this story in the New York Times. The entire faculty of a Seattle area high school has voted to refuse giving students a standardized test used in teacher evaluations, in a unanimous decision that's likely the first of its kind in the nation. Teachers at Garfield High School said the MAP tests are a waste of time, money, and resources that are then unfairly used to grade their performance.
Today isn't just about testing in general. It's about a particularly flawed test.
And I just see no use for it at all. And so I'm not going to do it.
Writing on her website, former Bush Assistant Secretary of Education Diane Ravitch said the vote could have national ramifications for showing teachers, quote, their strength and unity, and they do not have to endure unethical demands with passivity and resignation. And nominations for the 85th Academy Awards were unveiled Thursday. The documentary category includes 3 films featured on Democracy Now! Over the past year: The Invisible War on sexual assault in the U.S. military, How to Survive a Plague on the historic efforts of early AIDS movement, and 5 Broken Cameras on the nonviolent struggles of Palestinian farmers against Israel's separation wall in the occupied West Bank. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.
Thanks so much for watching this report from Democracy Now!, your daily independent global news hour. We don't accept advertising or corporate funding, but rather rely on donations from viewers like you. Please make your contribution by visiting democracynow.org. We need your support today to keep bringing you this hard-hitting, in-depth reporting.